a mission-based organization. Our mission is to find those candidates who share our values, to help them win, and then to hold them accountable to actually govern as conservatives. That's what we're here to talk about. And by the way, you all do it very well right here in the Mahoning County, Mahoning Valley. Give yourselves a round of applause. I don't need to tell you all that we have had a Republican renaissance in this part of the state. There are a variety of factors at play. One of them is the hard work that so many of you have done. Donating your hard-earned dollars, knocking on doors, helping support our candidates, coming to events like this. And so you all should give yourselves a pat on the back for that, but that's not the only thing. The other side has also made some colossal mistakes. And the other side has driven people from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party. There are a whole lot of people in this valley that used to call themselves Democrats who don't anymore, who realized within the last few years or maybe decades that that party left them. I'll tell you how I described it when I was speaking to the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Union. A bunch of folks that were mostly Democrats at the time, and I said, guys, think about this. The Democrats are so focused on letting boys use the girls' bathroom that they've forgotten all about you all who build the bathrooms, right? And I'll tell you what, I think they knew exactly what I was talking about. The Republican Party is alive and well in the Mahoning Valley, and you all are to thank. But the work doesn't end there. We've got a lot of work to do. Listen, mission accomplished. We've elected Republicans at the countywide level such that a lot of Republicans in countywide office now here in Mahoning County. We've elected President Trump and Ohio Zone J.D. Vance. We've sent a great Republican conservative legislative delegation to Columbus. You have sent a great member of Congress to represent you, and my friend Michael Ruley from right here in the Valley, a Republican congressman from Youngstown.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What?
Who's plaid socks right there?
Oh, that's Congressman Ruley.
Let me tell you about the challenge that we have in front of us next.
Until a few months ago.
Right now, we're thinking, all right, it's 2025, we can kick it into cruise control. No, not so much. You've got an important election coming up in just over 30 days, where local candidates are running to be the party standard bearer. So it's important that you get involved in those local races. And right on the heels of that will be a general election this November. And then we'll be into 2026, where we have to elect not only federal but statewide candidates. In that election, ladies and gentlemen, I'm running to serve as your next Auditor of State. Now, as Secretary of State, you heard what Robert was talking about. You know, my job has been to take the dead people off the rolls, to make sure only citizens can vote, to audit the elections, to work with our county boards of elections, to make sure that we make it both easy to vote and hard to cheat. That same transparency, efficiency, and accountability is what I'm going to bring to the Auditor of State's office. Folks, not everybody in this room thinks about the Auditor of State's office all that often, I promise you. But here's why you should. It is the state's top watchdog, responsible for rooting out corruption, finding those people that would dare betray the public trust by reaching in to the taxpayers' coffers and putting some of that money in their pockets. Folks like that belong in jail, and this community knows exactly what I'm talking about. There's a past with that. Anybody that would ever do that kind of thing under my watch as Auditor of State is going to end up in a jail cell. But there's another job that the auditor has to do: government efficiency. The Auditor of State has the power to do a thing called a performance audit. A performance audit is coming into any local or state entity and checking to see, are they overstaffed? Are they using bad, antiquated technology, following wasteful practices and procedures? Doesn't that sound a little bit like Doge? Doesn't that sound like what President Trump and what Elon Musk are doing right now in Washington? And by the way, have the Democrats nuts out of their minds that we're actually finding this waste? Well, you know what? As Auditor of State, remember this: ODOGE, Ohio Department of Government Efficiency. We can do it, and with your support, we'll get that done. Listen, this community has been incredibly kind to me, and it's not just because my name ends with a vowel. My paisans know what I'm talking about, right? But you guys have been supportive of me, and I appreciate that, and I'm going to ask for your continued support. Just two things. I'm asking for your vote, and I'm asking for your prayers, and with that, I'll be able to serve as your next Auditor of State. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to a man that many of you maybe already think you know. You've seen him on television, you've read his books, you saw him out on the campaign trail. You may think you know Vivek Ramaswamy. I want to make sure that you really get to know the man a little bit. You know his story. Kid from Southwest Ohio with a whole lot of syllables in his last name that had some teachers that believed in him at a young age and challenged him to be the best version of himself. Had great parents as well, and had the chance to go on to a world-class education in public schools, in Catholic high schools, and in the Ivy Leagues in college. Went on to start a successful business. And yeah, made a lot of money, and there's nothing to be ashamed of about that. We believe in capitalism here, but along the way, he put a lot of people to work and helped start companies that created life-saving remedies that have transformed people's lives and kept people alive much longer. He went on to start calling out this woke mind virus when nobody else would do it. And folks, as an entrepreneur running a biotech company, I don't think that made him very popular among his peers, but he knew he had to. He saw what was infecting the boardrooms and the classrooms of this country, and he knew how pernicious that was and what had to be done about it. So he started writing books about it. Those books became bestsellers. He went out on the campaign trail, and by the way, with his hard work, became one of the top surrogates for President Donald J. Trump and Ohio's own J.D. Vance. He has a lot, that we owe him a lot of thanks that they are today in the White House. Ladies and gentlemen, thank him for that hard work. Vivek is also a man that has invested in Ohio. He's invested in Ohio by raising his family here, his 2 young sons, his amazing wife Apurva, who is a surgeon at Ohio State Hospital and will be an amazing First Lady for Ohio. Ladies and gentlemen, Vivek Ramaswamy tonight is going to lay out for you a very challenging vision, not an easy one. This is not a kick it into cruise control, take it easy kind of thing. This is a challenging vision to make Ohio not just one of the better states of the country, but the most prosperous, the safest, the finest, most excellent state in the country. So I was proud to endorse him because I can see in him that this is a leader that can get things done. Where are my fellow military veterans? Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for them. Those guys and gals who just raised their hand will know what I'm talking about. There are leaders that you follow because you have to, because they've got more rank than you do. And then there are those rare leaders that you follow because you want to, because they lead by example from a place of conviction and have the courage to actually see their big ideas through to fruition. That's the kind of leader that Vivek Ramaswamy is. And by the way, that's why I was proud to endorse him. And like a lot of these other leaders in the state have as well. But I'm not the endorsement that really matters. The endorsement that's most important comes from Donald J. Trump. And listen, you know how President Trump doesn't do anything halfway. He gave Vivek Ramaswamy his complete and total endorsement. That's a big thing. And he said, and Trump is not a guy that throws hyperbole around too much. He said, this guy is something special. And he means it. Vivek is a leader that's going to transform Ohio. So let me ask you a couple questions, Mahoning County and the Mahoning Valley. Do you believe that Ohio's best days are ahead?
Yes.
Do you believe that conservative energy can deliver that vision? Do you believe that we need a governor with fresh legs to actually get that work done? Do you join me in believing that Vivek Ramaswamy is the man that can accomplish that? Well, then you've come to the right place because, ladies and gentlemen, I now introduce the next governor of the state of Ohio. Ladies and gentlemen, Vivek Ramaswamy.
You're getting very good at this.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, the
I
warm-up.
appreciate it, man. No, thank you, dude. You did great. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Give this man another round of applause. A great Secretary of State and to be State Auditor. Proud of you, my man. Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be in Mahoning Valley. There is no winning Ohio without winning Mahoning Valley. And I will tell you, Mahoning County is not just, I believe, the heart of our state. In some sense, it is the heart of our country. It's the heart of how we'll revive America. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. I want to thank you all for the warm welcome. We had some, I would say, eye-opening conversations over the course of today. And I want to tell you, I met a man last night who said he wore a T-shirt when he came up to me. He said that our history is not our destiny. I thought it was interesting. It's worth thinking about. This is a state and a part of our state with a great history. But as Frank said in his introduction, I appreciate that, Frank. I actually believe, truly, and not some, corny politician way, in a true way, I actually believe that our state's best days are still ahead of us. I believe America's best days are still ahead of us, and I believe Mahoning Valley's best days are still yet ahead of us. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Thank you for the warm welcome. Now, had I come here even just a couple of years ago, and I've been here over the, on and off in the northeastern part of our state in the last several years, it was a very different environment where we were back then under Biden's tenure. Over the last 4 years, we went through a national identity crisis of a kind that I can't remember in my lifetime. Faith in God, patriotism, hard work, family, all but disappeared in so much of our country. In our young people, I'm a millennial. I was the youngest person ever to run for U.S. president as a Republican. And I can tell you about my generation. We were lost, hungering to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And yet so many Americans couldn't even answer what it meant to be an American. Under the Biden years, less than 16% of Gen Z said they were even proud to be an American. And we had a 25% recruitment deficit in our U.S. military. That was unacceptable to me. That's why I spent the better part of last year traveling this country to make sure that we sent Donald Trump back to the White House as our 47th president. And in November, we got it right for the United States of America. It was a fork in the road for the future of our country. And we made the right choice. And now I truly believe that our best days, our golden age, is still yet ahead of us. And I am as optimistic as I've ever been for the future of our country. But I want to make sure that we are ready to chase that future. If 6 months from now, and this is an honest reflection for our side here, if 6 months from now, we're still talking about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris or whatever that machine was that put them up as their puppets, at that point, that means we missed the plot. Okay? Our memory for Joe Biden 6 months from now should be about equivalent to Joe Biden's memory of most of the things that he was governing, all right? It's part of the past. It's time for us to step up and actually chase our future. The Democrats, in some ways, they made it too easy for us this last election. This was just a mandate for common sense. It actually was very basic. Just state what is obviously true. There are two genders. Okay, that was a controversial thing to say 2 years ago or for the last 2 months. 20 years ago, somebody would question you and say, why are you stating something that's this obvious? And this was, in some ways, they went so far off the rails on the other side that they made it really easy for us. But that means we still have the hard work yet cut out for us ahead. Just what are we against, but what are we for? Not just what are we running from, but what are we running to? What does it mean to be a Republican? What does it mean to be a conservative? What does it mean to be an American? That's what's up to us to now step up and actually answer for our country. What does it mean to be a citizen of this nation? To me, it means we believe in the ideals that set this country into motion 250 years ago. Ideals like meritocracy and hard work and the pursuit of excellence. That you get ahead in this country, not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and your contributions. And that is why we've ended the woke DEI agenda and the affirmative action agenda across the United States government and right here in Ohio with the passage of SB 1 in the last week, which I'm proud of our state leaders for doing. What does it mean to be American? It means we believe in the rule of law. And I say this as the proud son of legal immigrants to this country. That means your first act of entering this country cannot break the law. And that is why we are finally sealing the porous southern border. That is not racist. That is not xenophobic. That is what it means to stand for the rule of law in the United States of America. It's who we are as a nation. What does it mean to be an American? It means the people we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who actually make the laws, not unelected bureaucrats in the three-letter deep state of Washington, D.C., or Columbus, Ohio, for that matter. It means that we believe in self-governance and accountability. It means we believe in free speech and open debate. That you get to express your opinion as long as I get to in return. That every person has the right to express their opinion, to speak in the public square without fear, as so many conservatives have suffered. in the last 4 years, that culture of fear, to stand up for what is right, what is true with conviction, to speak the truth, that God is real, that there are two genders, that fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity, that reverse racism is racism, that an open border is not a border, that parents should determine the education of their children, not the government, that the nuclear family isn't a bad word. It is the greatest form of governance known to the history of mankind, that capitalism is the best system we have to lift us up from poverty, that there are 3 branches of government, not 4, and that the U.S. Constitution is the strongest and greatest guarantor of freedom in human history. That is the truth. We fight for the truth. We stand for the truth. That is who we are. That's what our founders fought for. That's what Donald Trump is fighting for every day as our 47th president. But this isn't a one-man job. It doesn't work that way. If we are going to be saved as a nation, it's going to be because all of us, every one of us, steps up and we save ourselves. And in the next chapter of our nation's journey, that actually goes to the states. The golden age for America is about to be a golden age for federalism. So watch carefully. Look at what's happening in Washington, D.C. We all celebrated it, and we should. The beginning of the shutdown of the U.S. Department of Education, a toxic federal agency that has impeded American education for the last several decades. But that's the first step. Where does that go? It goes back to the states and to the people. That means the center of gravity of saving this country is moving back to the states where it belongs. And this is where I believe we here in Ohio have an opportunity and an obligation to lead the way. President Trump is reviving our conviction in America, but I think we need a leader here at home who revives our conviction in the state of Ohio. And that's why in the last couple of months I declared my candidacy to be the next governor of a great state at the heart of the greatest nation known to the history of mankind. The state where I was born and raised, where I'm raising my 2 sons today to be the next governor of the state of Ohio. And we are going to lead Ohio back to greatness. I don't just want Ohio to be one of the better states in the Midwest, because frankly we are one of the better states in the Midwest. And I want to recognize those who came before me for getting us there. We're going to build on their foundation. But I don't want to just be one of the better states in our region. I want to lead Ohio to be the top state in the country to raise a young family, to get a job, to earn wealth and keep that wealth, to give our kids the tools to see themselves not as victims but as victors in a competitive global economy, where we give them a world-class education in the subjects that matter: math, reading, writing, critical thinking, financial literacy, physical education. The state where we embrace merit and capitalism instead of apologizing for it. The state where we take a hatchet job to red tape and regulation and government bureaucracy and overgrowth. The state where we lead in the sectors of the future, from AI to semiconductor production to aerospace. The state where patriots across this country, including from Florida to Texas, will flock back to. I will lead Ohio to become the state of excellence in America. And there are those who say to me when I share this vision that, how could Ohio be that state? That's crazy talk. I would remind you that it wasn't long ago that Ohio was that state, that the Mahoning Valley was that region within our state. You see today, young people with their memes on the internet, right? There's a meme on the internet that says, makes fun of Ohio. If something's old or out of fashion or out of touch, their little expression and meme is only in Ohio. It actually irritates me, to be honest with you, because it wasn't long ago that people weren't making fun of Ohio. They were aspiring to be Ohio. At the turn of the last century, we were the wealthiest state in the Union, the 3rd most populous state in America, an economic powerhouse at the heart of the nation, with fertile farmland, great natural resources underneath our ground. We led the way in the first industrial revolution. You all and your ancestors led the way in the first industrial revolution, right here from this part of the country and this part of the state. Even in the 1950s, which really, in the scheme of things, wasn't that long ago. In the 1950s, 6 of the top 15 wealthiest cities in America were located right here in Ohio. Toledo was the glass capital of the world. Akron was the rubber capital. Youngstown and Cleveland were the steel capitals of the West. Dayton, yeah, you can give Youngstown a round of applause. We're proud of Youngstown. It's the entire state and our whole, north to south, east to west. Dayton, where I was a couple days ago earlier this week, led the computing power part of the Industrial Revolution. My hometown of Cincinnati, where I was born and raised, was known around the country as Porkopolis. We provided the food supply chain for the entire country. We were a consumer products capital of the world, known around the world as the Queen City. We were the pioneers, the explorers, the unafraid, the people who no government or bureaucracy would dare stop from achieving the maximum of our potential. And you know what happens when young people grow up in that type of state, in that type of region, in its great moment in history, is they gain the self-confidence to do things they never imagined possible. We were the state of Neil Armstrong and John Glenn, who grew up here as kids, born, raised, lived in Ohio, when they became the first man to walk on the moon in human history, when they became the first American to go into orbit. The Wright brothers out of Dayton, Ohio, the first people to lead the way into flight, themselves at the front leading the way. That's who we were. We were the state of excellence in America. And we can be that state again, because if you think about it, we have every one of those same natural advantages we did the first time around. The same fertile farmland, the same natural resources, including natural gas and oil right underneath our ground. The same hardworking population that actually represents the best of what America's all about. So you can go to Florida, you can drop a little pin and draw a circle around it, 100, 200 mile radius, you get a cross-section of Florida. You can go to Texas. I love these states. You can go to Texas, draw a 100-mile radius of anywhere you go to Texas. You got a cross-section of Texas. You go to anywhere in Ohio and you drop a 100-mile radius around where we are right now tonight, you got a cross-section of America. The hardest working people, I believe, have been known to mankind right here in our state. The same geographic position at the heart of a great nation, with the Erie Canal to New York City, the Ohio River to the Mississippi. 60%, 60% of North America's population within a single day's drive of where we're having dinner tonight. We have every advantage. God has blessed our state with every gift we could possibly wish for to lead America back to greatness. All we have to do is to start believing in ourselves again to actually do it. And I believe it deep in my bones that Ohio can lead the next industrial revolution right here as well. If Silicon Valley led the way in the last 10 years, it's going to be the Ohio River Valley for the next 10 years. Not talking about the Rust Belt anymore. We're moving on to the future. I don't want to talk about us. I go to parts of the state that have been ignored. I'll tell you, I'm not running to be the mayor of Greater Columbus. I'm not going to be the governor of Central Ohio. I'm going to be the governor of all of Ohio, including making sure that every region, including the Mahoning Valley, reaches the maximum of our potential. That's not tears of sympathy. All right, that's not some sort of charity, okay? That's opportunity for our state. Think about the natural resources, the know-how, the heritage, even the industry. I've visited many companies around here even over the course of today. I believe it will be a lost opportunity for Ohio if we just turn the other way and focused on Columbus or the 3 Cs. No, it's going to be every part of Ohio, not out of some type of sympathy or charitability, but out of hunger for opportunity and ambition for our state's greatness. It may not be the same sectors as last time around, not all of them. It may not be rubber next time. But it is going to include the sectors of the future, from semiconductor production to the energy of the future. That includes natural gas to me as an energy of the future, but it'll also include nuclear energy. Biotech to Bitcoin to our defense industrial base. The state where we use AI not to take jobs, but to make jobs through workforce training and education. That's where I'm leading our state. This is our modern day Northwest ordinance right here in the state of Ohio. We are a conservative state, and we deserve to finally be governed like one. That will not lose us elections. It will win us elections. That's what the fear is. We're not going to lose over that. We're going to win over it because it's going to put more money in your pocket. Not just in Republican pockets, but Democrats' pockets too. It's going to lift up more people from poverty. It's going to give our kids that missing self-confidence to achieve the maximum of their potential. It's going to revive that sense of civic pride that we long for in the country. That's what's going to make Ohio the state where patriots across America, from California to New York, and frankly, even from Texas to Florida, flock back to, including our kids who have left this state, return to the place of their parents and their grandparents to actually pursue their American dream right here. Now, I believe that is going to require a new generation of leadership in our state. You've seen some of that new generation of leadership here tonight. I want to thank many people who are here in the room who've endorsed me. I want to thank you, Frank LaRose, for your support. Robert Sprague, outstanding state treasurer, soon to be Secretary of State, Christina Rogner. It's an honor to have you, soon to be a great state treasurer, one of our lead state legislators, with many of you here, but along the way, pushing SB 1 across the finish line. I appreciate you for that, Christina, and so many more who are, may have an endorsement later tonight, but I don't want to front run that. There's other speakers coming. I want to thank you for having faith in a new generation of leadership, because I am an outsider. And I recognize that involves taking a bit of a bet, right? We've had traditional politicians who have historically been the governor. I want to thank you for your support and your vote of confidence. We're going to work with a team of people who know this state and its politics in and out while bringing a fresh perspective that actually leads our state to the next level. And I believe there are some changes that we require. Building on the great foundation we have, some real changes we have to make to chase our future. I'll give you the number one problem I think our state faces right now. I'll be blunt with you. If you care about somebody, you tell them the truth. If you care about yourself, you tell them what they want to hear. I'll give you the truth. The most difficult challenge our state faces right now is that we have a shrinking population. This region, including Mahoning Valley, has a shrinking population. I want to talk about the specifics of that because it's important. You're going to solve a problem. I'm not here to curse the darkness, but you got to see the problem with clear eyes to actually be able to solve it. First, we're having fewer kids, especially people in my generation. Our fertility rate in this state hit an all-time low in 2020, and then in 2024 it got even lower than 2020. It's the lowest it's ever been in our history because our generation feel uncertain about whether our kids are actually going to go on to live a better life than we did. We're having fewer kids, but with an aging population, we have more people dying. The death rate is going up in our state at the same time. So already naturally, amongst the people here, we have a declining population. Now, on top of that, though, we have a separate problem. We have now more people, for the first time in the last few years, more people leaving our state than moving in. Florida's number 1 on this metric. Texas is number 2. We're number 38, one of the only low states, one of the only red states in the bottom quartile. And then I get curious about this. So I've gone deep on this, okay? Who's leaving and who's coming in? The people leaving our state tend to be younger and college educated. The people moving into our state tend to be on government aid, on government assistance, including Medicaid, welfare, and unemployment benefits that our state offers in a better way than perhaps even some of our neighbors. That's not going to work for our state in the long run. We require real change. And the number one thing I'm going to be focused on in this campaign, you're going to hear about it over the course of this year, are the ways in which we make our state a magnet for those people, especially those young families, to move back into by allowing you to generate wealth and keep wealth right here in this state. And that's why I'm proud to say tonight, I will be the first governor in our history to finally take our income tax down to 0 so our state can compete with Tennessee, Texas, Florida, and then out-compete them. It is your money, not the government's, and you deserve to keep what you earn. And we're going to follow that through all the way down to 0. It's not just the income tax. We're going to put a ceiling on property taxes in this state. It's unjust. It's gotten way too high. When you pay as much in your property tax as you do on the principal and interest repayments on your mortgage, it starts to feel a lot like the land that you own is really just a lease from the government. It's un-American. It's antithetical to our values here in Ohio. People ask me, how are you going to do this? Give me the specifics. I'll give you some specifics. Okay, news media challenges me on this. I'll give you the specifics. Start with 2 basic ones. We ceiling on the percentage of your property that can be assessed as a property tax. If a county wants to come in lower, that's great, but they can't go above the ceiling. That's number one. And number two is, it's a radical idea here, it's coming up. We're going to make sure people know what they're actually voting for. Okay, right now, when so many people are voting for property tax increases, they don't know the impact that's going to have on them. I've talked to Ohioans across the state that voted yes, and then when it comes back to, no, I didn't expect that property tax bill. And it's not their fault, really. I mean, who really knows what millage is anyway? 20 mil? I mean, should you have to know what that is? I mean, Frank LaRose knows because that's his job, and Robert Sprague, but I think we have increasingly created an opaque system designed to confuse people into voting for property tax increases that they didn't actually vote for. That's the pragmatics of how we're actually going to do it. And every Democrat and Republican alike should stand for transparency in the way our government runs, and that's going to put more money back in your pocket and make us a magnet for migration across the nation. And I promise you I'm going to market our state to the rest of the country so we have people moving back in. The second challenge in this state that nobody's talking about, not enough people at least, frankly in either political party, is what I see as a looming crisis in our state. I use the word crisis here. I'm going to use it one more time tonight. I don't use that word lightly. It's a looming crisis of electricity shortages in the state. And I'll tell you why this is a risk. We now have a boom of AI data centers moving into our state. That's a good thing. I want economic development in the state. I want a boom in the sectors of the future. But that means we now have the greatest demand on our electric grid that we've ever had in the history of our state. And it comes right at the same time when we've also had a political-led war from the left on coal and natural gas, which means our baseload power generation, the minimum amount of power required to power the electric grid, our baseload power generation is as thin as it's ever been because of the shutdown of those coal plants and because of the slowdown in utilization of natural gas. That math doesn't add up. The greatest demand right at the time we have shortest supply. I'll tell you where this road ends. It's actually personal to me. I've known what that looks like from a young age. My father came as a legal immigrant, as I said, from India to Cincinnati, Ohio. But he was particular. We grew up in middle-class circumstances. We're very comfortable here. But by the standards where he grew up, it was unthinkably, unimaginably luxurious. He would take us back as kids, and we would spend 3rd, 4th, 5th grade summers in what was then a third world country, but in a particularly rural village within that third world country where he grew up. They had rotating power outages. You had power for 8 hours per day. You could use the fridge. If you didn't do it right, milk would go bad the next morning. You turn on the light, 8 hours a day it comes on, the other 16 hours it doesn't come on. That's what it looked like. So when we would come back to Westchester, Ohio, where I grew up, and then Evendale, where I grew up, boy, at the end of those summers, we were grateful. We have power. They're helping me out tonight. This is very dramatic effect. I like this. Get the microphone? Thank you. That's okay. Should we try some projection? Can you hear me in the back? Yeah. All right. Jonathan, he'll give me a... He'll get your mic. He'll hook me up. But in the meantime, this is all part of the dramatic effect here. So when there were the rotating power outages, the microphones didn't work, the lights didn't come on. And then we come back, we'd be so grateful because in Westchester, Ohio, we turn on the lights, 10 times out of 10, it comes right back on, naturally like it's supposed to. We were grateful. And I think that's part of what my dad wanted to instill in us. The irony now is it's 35 years later, that little village in southern India, they got McDonald's, they got Domino's, Pizza Hut, air conditioning. They're good. They don't have rotating power outages anymore. Now in the United States of America, in the state of California, in the Communist Republic of California, they have rotating power outages there. But we're at risk of that same outcome right here in our state of Ohio unless we step up and actually do something about it. And we will. And here's what we're going to do about it, is we're going to unleash a wave of production like we have not seen of natural gas utilization in our state. The power is back, or we'll make sure. Hello? That's the natural gas for you. That's what happens when we bring natural gas back into our state. And we're bringing coal, too. You know, coal should not be a four-letter word. Should not be treated like a four-letter word, I should say. But it's not just natural gas and coal, but also small modular nuclear reactors, which I believe are an important part of the future of this state. And I want to lead Ohio to be the state that sets an example for the country of what actual baseload power generation from the future looks like. And how about these gentlemen? You know, give them a round of applause for helping me out on the fly. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, guys. Thank you. Saving my voice there. That's very generous. So that's the second crisis that I would say is ignored. We got the demographic crisis, the population crisis, the migration issue. Second is our looming electricity shortage. We're going to address that. Don't worry about it. And number three is perhaps the one nearest and dearest to my heart, which we're going to address. But it is the educational achievement crisis in our state and in our country, actually. We got to open our eyes to see it, confront the truth. Right now, I'm not making these numbers up, 75% of 8th graders are not proficient in math. There are kids in other countries where English is not even their first language, doing better on English proficiency than our own students right here at home in the United States of America. An average student in China is a full 4 years ahead of his counterpart here in the United States. Think about what that means. A 7th grader in the United States is performing at the equivalent level of a 3rd grade student in academic achievement in China. That's unacceptable to me. Speaking as a parent of 2 sons, an Ohioan, as an American, I refuse to just stand by and idly watch as China laughs at our gradual decay into oblivion. Thank you. That's the China microphone. We're done with that one. We're going to turn this ship around. And I mean this in a way where I want to see Ohio lead the way. I want Ohio to be the top state in the country and in the world where we give our kids a world-class education in math, reading, writing, critical thinking, financial literacy, physical education. This isn't a partisan exercise. And anybody who's a parent will understand what I'm about to tell you. First of all, we've got to make sure our kids are safe in public schools. All right, give our law enforcement a round of applause tonight. We're going to have one of them in every public school in this state to make sure our kids are safe in our schools. Thank you for your service and with the proper training needed to be there. We're going to make sure our kids actually show up to school. Since the COVID-19 school closures, we actually had an epidemic, we still do, of absenteeism in our schools across the state. And I will pledge to you this. As your next governor, never again will we bend the knee to a fake Anthony Fauci knockoff who allowed our public schools to be closed while our private schools remained open. She owes our kids an apology, and she should never come anywhere near the levers of power again. We're going to win by 40 points thanks to you guys next year in Mahoning Valley, and make sure of it, all right? That much I'll tell you. But more importantly than that, those are just basic. Safety, basic. Showing up at school, basic. No, we got to go further. We're going to stand for the achievement of our students in every domain, from the sports fields to the classroom. Address some of the basics. I'm going to talk about some issues we don't usually talk about, but everyone who's a parent will know what I'm talking about when I say it. Our time is not well utilized in school. Our kids' time, a lot of it's just wasted, dead weight waste of time that we should substitute with civic education, financial literacy education. Teach our kids at a young age what Albert Einstein called the greatest discovery of man, compound interest. Teach kids what that means to save money and actually participate in capitalism through compounding rather than being spiteful towards somebody else's success. Bring back physical education at a young age. PE in kindergarten, the presidential fitness test in middle school, including the pull-ups, by the way. Okay? You got some tough love at times. Get the cell phones out of the classroom. They have no reason to be distracting our students on a daily basis, baiting them into ADD, and then medicating them with Ritalin. We don't need to go through that cycle when we can actually do what's right. And it starts foremost with the teachers. I had a news interview outside, a reporter, and she was friendly about it. I want to give credit to where credit's due. You know, was asking me some tough questions, but respectfully from, it might have been NBC News or one of the local affiliates here. She said, what do you think about the education cuts? What are you going to do? In the budget, we're seeing cuts in public education. You know what I told her is, it's not about how much money we spend, it's about how we spend the money that we're already allocating, all right? That's where we need to pay attention. The schools where we spend the most money per student are performing the worst on a per-student basis. And the more money we've thrown at those schools, the worse they actually continue to perform. So we can't just try yesterday's solution, all right? You continue repeating the same mistake and expect a different result. That's the definition of insanity. We're going to bring true sanity to educational reform by making sure that our dollars are actually spent on classroom instruction instead of overhead bureaucracy. And everywhere else, the majority of our dollars are being spent today are not on classroom instruction. That will change when I'm your next governor. And that also means, and I want not just the people in this room, but a lot of your Democrat and independent friends and neighbors to hear this when I say this as well. That means I believe in not just school choice, which I do. We're going to make sure that we have school choice to the fullest in Ohio so that every parent can send their kids to the best possible school. That much you ought to take for granted with me. But it also means that the best public school teachers deserve to be paid actually a lot more than they are right now. All right, it's a 5-alarm fire in our education system. And that's a 5-alarm fire. I consider our public school teachers to be our first responders. We need to make sure we're attracting the best and the brightest, but it has to be tied to performance. There has to be real meritocracy. And at that point, our kids are actually going to excel in a way that the American education system once allowed them to just a generation ago. We got to revive civic education, bring back that sense of civic pride that fills that deficit of purpose and meaning and identity. We got to ask ourselves what's going on in our generation of young people with depression, anxiety, fentanyl, suicide, coming at the same time as we see the rise of wokeism, transgenderism, climatism, COVIDism, anti-Semitism. You go straight down the list. These are symptoms of a deeper void of purpose and meaning and identity in our young people. We got to fill the void with the real thing, not the fake superficial stuff that the other side has put on offer. That means bringing back a real civic education, replace the woke indoctrination and victimhood psychology with actual U.S. civics lessons, with actual U.S. history lessons that teach our kids to be proud of our country and our state instead of ashamed of it. Say the Pledge of Allegiance with a moment of silence every morning as we did tonight. Every public school should be doing every morning for our students as well. Just a moment, 2 minutes a day to ground ourselves in the why. And I will make sure that as your next governor, every high school senior who graduates from an Ohio public high school will have to pass the same civics test that every legal immigrant has to pass before becoming a naturalized citizen of this country. You got to know something about a country, to love that country, and to be proud of that country. And that paves the way for then improving post-secondary education, higher education in our state. I say this as somebody who went through 4-year college education. I went to Princeton Public Schools. I'm a product of Ohio Public Education through 8th grade. I went to St. Xavier, Jesuit High School in Cincinnati for high school. I went to Harvard for college. I went to Yale for law school. You don't have to clap for those, but thank you. They were great when I went there. They've lost their way a little bit in the meantime. But I'm proud of my path, actually. I'm proud of allowed me to live the American dream. My wife, Apurva, we met, I was in law school. She was in med school at Yale. She's now a successful throat surgeon taking care of cancer survivors in Columbus, Ohio. She's lived the American dream. I'm proud of her for her path. She's lived the American dream. But we also recognize that our path cannot be and must not be the only path for our sons and daughters of Ohio either. I want us also to be a state where every young man and woman who wants to become a welder or a carpenter or an electrician or a machine operator or a builder or a welder or a plumber also has his and her path with dignity to live the American dream to the fullest. Eliminate the occupational licensing requirements. Earn while you learn programs as early as high school so you don't have to be saddled with 4-year college debt to live the American dream. And I don't call these professions the trades. I call them professions because that's what they are, deserving the same degree of dignity and respect as somebody who goes on to become a lawyer or a banker or a doctor. It's not that one of these is more or less elite than the other. They're all elite because we're here in Ohio, in the United States of America, where every path is open to every child. That is what the true American dream is about. That is what a true meritocracy is about. A nation that recognizes that every one of us, every one of you, has your own unique God-given gift. And that we are a nation that allows you to make the most of your own gift without any government or bureaucracy system standing in your way. That is what made America great the first time. That is how we will make Ohio great again. American dream isn't just about green pieces of paper. It's about reviving conviction in our purpose as citizens. We're all only here for a short time. We don't get a long time on this earth. And I think that every one of us shares in common. It's common to our humanity is our desire to be a hero in the short time that we're given. And yes, you could be a hero as a president or a governor or a CEO, but I also believe you ought to be a hero, and you can be a hero as a police officer or a nurse or a public school teacher or a mother or a father of children that you raise in this state, as the child or a grandson of an ailing parent or a grandparent. There are many ways to be a hero. And the beauty of our country is that we honor you and allow you to be a hero in your own unique way. That's what the true American dream is actually about. And I want this to be a state where the American dream isn't just about our verbiage. It's about actual lived reality for every son and daughter of Ohio, where you're not spiteful to somebody else's success because you're actually participating in it with real skin in the game. That's my message to every son and daughter of Ohio tonight. To my two sons in Columbus, to every son and daughter of the Mahoning Valley, the American dream is your birthright. A world-class education is your birthright. Success is your birthright. Freedom is your heritage. And excellence is your destiny. This isn't a small vision. It's not even a humble vision for our state. It is an ambitious vision, because I believe that is who we really are as Ohioans and as Americans. We are not victims, we're victors. We don't whine, we win. When we rallied behind the cry to make America great again, we hungered for the unapologetic pursuit of excellence in America, and we here in Ohio will lead the way in showing what that actually means. I will fight every day to pass that American dream on to our kids and their generation, to make sure they go on to live an even better life than we did by staying right here in Ohio instead of going to some other state. I'll fight to the end for this state. I'm visiting all 88 counties this year. We'll visit all 88 counties next year. I'm going to visit all 88 counties every one of the 8 years that I serve as your governor, because I want to listen to you. Every one of you across this state. I don't want to govern from a bubble. I'm not in this to even lead the Republican Party of Ohio. I'm in this to lead all of Ohio. We want a big tent coalition. A lot of people in this room tonight. Thank you for coming out. It's a great crowd tonight. But we want to reach the people who aren't in this room too. Independents, orphaned Reagan Democrats, libertarians, anybody who's politically homeless in this state. If you care about giving your kids the same shot at the American dream that this state and this country gave to me, if you care about giving your kids a world-class education, if you care about making sure that there's enough money growing in their investment account so that they can live a better life than you did, then you know what? You and I are on the same team. We're on the same team. We have a seat for you at the table in this movement, and we will work with you to lead our state to the next level. We don't have to be a state in decline. We don't have to be a nation in decline. We don't have to be a region in decline. I believe that we are still a region, a state, a nation still in our ascent, still on our way to that shining city on a hill. That country where we will look our kids in the eye and mean it when we tell them that you get ahead in the United States of America with your own hard work, your own commitment, your own dedication. And that you know what? You are free to speak your mind at every step of the way. That you don't have to choose between speaking your mind freely and putting food on the dinner table, between the First Amendment and the American dream. That you get to do both of those things in our state and in our country with conviction and with pride. So that 10 years from now, when we're sending manned rockets to Mars, when we're powering our electric grid with small modular nuclear reactors and the energy of the future, when we're curing previously incurable genetic diseases with cures discovered right here in Ohio. You want to know what our young people are going to say then? only in Ohio. That's our future ahead of us, guys. We're just getting started. Our state's best days and our nation's best days are still ahead of us. We are the greatest nation known to the history of mankind. And it's not only our opportunity, but our duty to do what is right in the short time we're given to lead our nation back to greatness, to the best version of ourselves. I told you every one of you has a unique gift. I believe that. Every one of us does. And I want you to go home tonight, look yourself in the mirror, and ask yourself, how are you going to use those gifts to do what is right for our country in our hour of need? There's no win in Ohio without winning the Mahoning Valley, so I'm counting on you. And I promise you this, if you all do your part, this man Frank LaRose is going to do his, Robert Sprague will do his, Christina Rogner is going to do hers, Judge Hawkins already doing his, okay? We're all ready to stand up and do our part at every leader from this state, from governor on down to every cop on the street, every county sheriff I've met. There's an energy in this state. We're ready. We're ready to unleash it, ready to be boundless in achieving greatness once again in Ohio. All we have to do is to believe in ourselves to do it. All we have to do is to believe in those ideals in our Declaration of Independence, enshrined in our U.S. Constitution, the greatest mission statement ever written for a nation known to the history of mankind. That's what set this nation into motion 250 years ago. That's what reunited us after a civil war. That is what won us 2 world wars and the Cold War. That is what still gives hope to the world. And if we can revive those ideals over group identity and victimhood and grievance, then nobody in the world, not a nation, not a corporation, not a virus, not China, is going to stop us. That is what American exceptionalism is all about, and that is what we are about to revive right here in Ohio. Thank you, Mahoning County. God bless you and your families, and may God bless our great state of Ohio. Keep fighting till we get the job done. Fight, fight, fight. This country's worth saving, and we will. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you, man. Congratulations, man. We got you. That was awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
So now we're going to have our auction.
If I could please have
Good job, my man.
Awesome job. It's an honor. To me, okay? Thank you. Thank you. Good job. Thank you. We'll see you. Christina, great seeing you. Great seeing you, all right? Keep it up. We'll talk soon. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sure. Thank you.
Okay, suffered a massive stroke. He's doing well. He had loss of feeling in his left hand, and he still is regaining that. He asked me to come fill in for him, so it's going to be a little tamed down. Mark Monroe said, Paul, you're 80 years old, and at midlife you got to slow down just a little bit. So, but I'm an auctioneer. We have Basinger Auction Service. Helping me tonight is my daughter, Julie Cernecka. She's also an auctioneer. But we're going, yes, it's okay. She's my youngest. And so what we're going to do, we have some guns we're going to auction. We have some artwork we're going to auction. There's a basket. There's a Shawshank Redemption shadow box we're going to auction, a few things like that. They can't hear us in the back. I'm going to have to use the other mic then, even though this was good. I'm sorry. Can you hear me in the back then? Can you hear me? Sorry, guys. As well as I can, we're going to do the rest of the